excited to be here with other of my brethren from the Marianas and from Micronesia and from all over the vast Pacific to come to this part of the Pacific on the other side, thousands of miles away, to see what we can do together to conserve, protect, respect, and connect in a modern way, but with ancestral knowledge backing us is exciting and important, and I'm so honored to be here with you all in this effort. Before I begin, I'd like to share and have another daughter from Guam, Francesca, just pass around some gifts from our land. This is some medicinal herb bundles, a collection of medicines that I've collected on my own with my students, and in the process, it's of the picking of the plants and the flowers. There's prayer and thanks given to the land. This is going to just be passed around throughout the audience to just experience and smell and feel the essence of our islands when you touch them. And I also wanted to pass around this is another symbol for the Chamorro people. It's a latte stone, and it was the just pass it out. Sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, Francesca.
She goes to school here. I just met her and asked her. A latte stone is a very important symbol too for our people, and it was the pillars of our houses and our canoe houses. And for me, they're a symbol of they literally uplifted our people from the land. And it was a technology of architecture used for over 1,000 years in the Marianas before Spanish contact. And it would be where they stored the canoes underneath the rafters where they would bury our ancestors. And this is the shape of the latte stone, carved out of a conch shell. And for me, where we're going as a people, the latte stone, we can either choose to be like the latte stone, or we can choose to be a bomb. So navigation in the Pacific is a very male-heavy sort of tradition, but women are really, really important in the navigating world. We cooked the food, and as we saw in Mimi's brilliant film, we were the weavers of the sail. We helped to make the rope. And in Micronesian folklore, much like the new film Moana, the first navigator was a woman, and there's a great clip of Papa Mao retelling this legend of how a granddaughter of a chief was gifted the knowledge of navigation through a bird. And I wish I had that video, but you can find it on YouTube. So women also in navigation, it's the canoe itself as a vessel. In Micronesia, a lot of the parts of the canoe are genderized. The Famalao, Famalao means women in Chamorro, and part of our canoe is called the Famalao, and there's a female part of it, and it helps to, correct me if I'm wrong, to keep the mast up. And also in the Marshall Islands, the female gendered part of the canoe is the keel, and there's a beautiful Chuukese poem that basically a husband calls himself a canoe and his wife the outrigger, the outrigger that brings him balance. And in the Marianas, women have always made sure that we bring a balance to the world, and that women in general throughout the world are the ones that our healing energy, our nurturing energy is something that the world needs right now, and empowering the feminine energy is something I hope to keep doing with this presentation. So what I hope to do today is basically go over some more of the threats to our ocean and of our lands in the Marianas by talking about a military buildup. Is it a military buildup or is it destruction? So over the next few minutes, I want to talk about the plans of the military to use the Marianas from Guam all the way up to basically our entire ocean and 3 main islands for a huge military buildup. Is it a buildup though, or is it destruction? is sort of where I want to go in this conversation. So Guam, this is a historic overview. This is where I'm from, 160,000 Americans, unlike what Fox News said, where there's only 3,000. There's a lot of us there. It's an unincorporated territory of the United States, and it has been since 1898. And we are one with the Marianas. When I was in high school, though, we didn't even learn the other islands, and that was just not too close by, but we have, in our own history, Guam is very Guam-centric, even up to today. Because we're an unincorporated territory, we don't get to and even value the rest of our Micronesian brothers and sisters, or even our brothers as close as the Marianas. As an unincorporated territory, we can't vote for president. We have a delegate to Congress, but she can't vote. She can only sit in committees. We get limited federal funding. There's so many restricted policies that really inhibit our economic growth. And these plans that are going to change our islands forever has happened without any consultation of the people of Guam, because we're a sovereign part of the United States. So yeah, we've had very little say in the future and the fate of our islands. And it's the same kind of with the CNMI. And if you don't know much about the CNMI, they're the islands immediately north of Guam. There are a total of about 60,000 people that live there. The main islands are Saipan, Tinian, and Luta. Really small. Guam is actually bigger than all the other islands combined as far as square miles. And the economies of the CNMI are tourism, farming, and fishing. And currently, the military presence is about 18,182 acres. And not much of it, at least in the island of Tinian, is used now, but as you'll see soon, there's going to be some hyper-militarization plans for these islands. And the island of No'os, or also known as Farland de Manzanilla, is bombed weekly by the U.S. Air Force. And there's plans to increase that bombing, that live fire training in the next few years. And this is the CNMI. So Guam's an unincorporated territory, but the CNMI has, I guess, a Commonwealth status. It's just quasi-self-governing, where they get to negotiate at least. They get to at least sit at the table for any of the actions or plans. Their governor at least is consulted, unlike our governor, as to what the plans will be for the use of their islands, especially in the island of Tinian. So again, they bought all these islands and paid some money for it. But as Chief Seattle said, money can't feed you at the end of the day. So right now, the military strategy is really pivoting a lot of their energy, effort, and might to the Pacific to contain threats from China and North Korea. And so there's this whole fortification process going on throughout Guam, the Marianas, Australia, the Philippines, and moving troops from Okinawa to Guam has been the big impetus of this military buildup on Guam, which is currently underway. And again, just want to emphasize and keep emphasizing that the people of the land were never actually asked. We've actually had to demand seats at the table. And women were always the ones that were in charge of the land. And the way that the community has been, all the plans have been informed to the public is in the form of an environmental impact statement, which is a NEPA law, the National Environmental Protection Act law. And so there's all these basically check marks of things that for any sort of federal endeavor, they have to go through a check mark of things in which they study the impacts environmentally, socially, culturally of the plans. And so the way that the community was presented the plans for our future was in this form of an environmental impact statement. And the ways that we've been able to respond to it are very short comment-making sessions or 3-minute testimonies at public hearings that are on Tuesday nights in the middle of Holy Week, and just really inconvenient times for our culture to be responding to something so massive. And these environmental impact statements are, again, thousands and thousands of page long and really technical languages. And for the people of the Marianas, the average reading level is third, fourth grade. So these sort of things just don't make their way around to everybody. You have to be, it's majority the scholars and majority, and I'll show you, it's majority women who are the ones ensuring that we take whatever these impact statements say and sort of turn it into ways that are digestible and understandable for our community. So the Northern Marianas are comprised of 14 islands, and in the plans for the military buildup, they want to use the islands of Tinian, which is just south of Saipan, and I got to teach there for a year. And they've been leasing out some land, the 2/3 of the island, since World War II. If you don't know much about history, Tinian was also used as the bombing loading dock station for the Marines from Okinawa training in Tinian, living in Guam, and these are some of the impacts to Tinian directly, like traveling in and out is going to be affected, farming and fishing, access. And right now there's an actual lawsuit filed by the people of Tinian and the CNMI and Pagan to have the military reconsider their plans. And this is what they want to do in Pagan. And they say things like Pagan is uninhabitable. That's just simply not true. They don't, even if they don't have people living there 365 days out of the year, it is still a place where people go pretty regularly to fish, to hunt, to farm, to harvest things like coconut crabs. There's cows there, there's goats there that have been living there since World War II as well. Since 1981, that was when people were evacuated from this island after a major volcanic eruption. And the military plans for the island will completely destroy a lot of the land resources and the ocean resources as well. And then on Guam, they want to take a national wildlife refuge, called Ritidian, and transform it from this to this. And the site that they're choosing, Northwest Field, has the most adverse harmful impacts, and it was not considered to be a reasonable alternative when they first initiated the plans in 2009, but they wanted also to use another sacred site on Guam that we were able to stop through a lawsuit. And on Guam, if you're an activist, you call the military expansion Militaki expansion, and the word "taki" in our language means "poo." So these are basically some of the military
They use a lot of acronyms. They use a lot of the CGMT is the CNMI, Joint Mariana Training Grounds. The Guam Relocation has another acronym. I don't even remember it. There's the MERC, which the MERC and the MIT combined, and these are all different EISs, and there's not one EIS that has studied the cumulative impacts of the training on our islands. But basically the MERC and the MIT transform our ocean of all of Micronesia, from all the way from Palau to all the way to as far east as the Marshalls, covering a space of 15, this whole western part of the United States. This land will be transformed into military testing for sonar, for air testing, expanding the ocean range of almost 1 million nautical miles. And so our oceans are under threat from all of this sort of military training. What's at stake? This is where they want to build a firing range on Guam in Britain or Northwest Bill or Tailalu. Trees. There's one tree there known as the Hazanlagu, and it's the only mature tree. It's of that kind, and it's endemic to Guam and Rota, found nowhere else in the world. There's only one mature mother tree. She's at risk. There's the destruction of thousands of pristine limestone forest acres, and Guam already has lost 95% of this type of forest that are unique to our islands, and that they evolved over the centuries. Older, really rare types of trees, and several types of endangered or threatened species, like our fruit bat, our turtle, butterflies, things that are all irreplaceable. U.S. militarization for the people of the Marianas is such a tricky thing to navigate around because we have such high enlistment rates, one of the highest in the nation. A majority of my high school students go on to join the military, so there's a sort of sense of pride in military service. That's one of the biggest impacts. It's hard to have our families come out to want to protect the land when you feel like you're betraying your families in uniform. It's been a loss of culture throughout the years. Again, since 1945, Guam is super duper developed. It's a cosmopolitan of all of Micronesia. It's the center. And if you if you ever go, if you haven't been yet, it's very much like a little America. And in the way that we've moved so quickly, we've lost so much of who we are in the last few generations. One huge aspect is our language loss. And as a result of all this militarization too, there's been so much toxicity of our land. There's 19% fun sites on Guam for a tiny place. We're only 36 miles long, 12 miles wide at the widest. We have 95 toxic sites that the military still has yet to clean up fully. And one of the biggest, saddest things for me as a woman from Guam is the loss of our birds. We had over 100 species at one point, 12 native forest birds, 2 of them being endemic, and now we have an extinction of 9 birds no longer in the world. Some of them still exist in the Marianas though, and one of the rally cries for me that I like to say a lot and like to see a lot on signage is native birds sing songs and warbirds drop bombs. So now I'm going to switch gears. That was sort of like the sad story of plight of our people, but I'm not here to like make you feel any more drab from all the other things that we have to face in protecting and moving forward with our ocean. As women, it's been so beautiful and inspiring to work alongside with them to ensure that our future generations are protected and get to experience our nature, get to experience our culture, and a culture that's still very much alive. So I'm gonna change gears here, I'm gonna switch it up, I'm gonna do a little chant to kind of change the energy back to this sense of hope and the sense of strength, and remembering that whatever we've been through, our ancestors have been there and they're there for us still. I've been through it and they're there for us still. So I want to offer a chant. This is called Tumotigi Ilahi, which in our language means the standing male. And and the male at the front of the house, being at the front of the house, and the chant basically is telling him to wait for the Makahaga, wait and listen to what she has to say, so that she can help you know the best way forward. And in this world today, if all of the male leaders out there would just wait and listen to their grandmother, it would be completely different space. Tumosigi lahi. Kinin lagu naman matu, hugi zaina fulu nalazak, man momoknu itamong gitasi, fanenga isakwa haganya, fanenga imagaga, fanenga zan fangekungok ikating kulu, samahan etnon imanyaina, tumotsuki gilahi matenguma. Hui. So ancestrally, we had the Makahaga, which were the women chiefs, the chiefstess, and they had so much power in our society. Haga means the blood, and it also means the daughter. So it kind of gives an insight into our thinking that our lands are you trace your lineage through your mother, through the women, and that's why we in most Micronesian islands were matrilineal. There's not a lot of women in history that were recorded because our history was recorded by visitors, men from patriarchal societies like Spain and England. So not many women in our history were ever recorded. One, though, was Fotna or Fo'una, and she was the ancestor that created life with her brother Puenten. They created not just our islands in our creation story, but the entire universe. And it was a brother and a sister, not a husband and a wife, not like an Adam and Eve, but a brother and a sister that really created the world. Fo'una used her brother's back for the land, his eyes for the sun and the moon, his eyebrows for the rainbow, and then she used her essence to breathe life. That's this picture is a mural that we painted in the village of Umatic, and she's breathing life into the land and life into the people. But we do have a lot of males that were enlisted in our history. Strong chiefs, warriors. Here's some of the statues. You could see them all. One interesting to note is either they're all sculpted and they're strong and they're standing alone. And our women in our statues that we have around the island are always with others, with it showing generational, and they're usually nameless, faceless women. This is an intergenerational honoring the women, and then the other is a statue honoring the plight of the people during World War II in their march to concentration camps. So again, we have a lot of men that were named, like these during the Spanish Chamorro Wars. We have the Spaniards were writing down their names, telling us about their actions, but no women. We have one really special one, Matapeng, who killed the Spanish missionary Salvatores and set in motion the sort of genocide of our people over a 27-year battle of the Catholicization of our island. And now there's this whole reclaiming of the narrative around women. So the Guampedia, one of the best resources about Guam, has a women in history sort of write-up endeavor, which is honoring women, but the women that have who've passed away. And then there's also a book called Daughters of the Island, written by Laura Torres Sauter. And here's some important women in Guam history that have been recognized. But there are stories about women. And one of the stories that has really inspired me, especially in this work about respecting and reclaiming and protecting our lands is the story of Ifamalawan ni Mansatbay Eswanmami, or the women that saved our islands, the maidens that saved Guam. And basically what they did in this legend is there was a sea monster, a huge fish that was eating the island from both sides. And if you look at Guam, in the middle of Guam, it's really skinny. So that fish was eating Guam and coming into the center. And the women from all over the island got together, they cut off their hair, and they weaved a net, and they caught that fish. And they used values that are still alive in Chamorro today to get this done in Afamalik, which is to make good, the idea of cooperation. They sacrificed something important to them, which for many Pacific Islanders, for women at least, it's their hair. And they put the needs of the communities first. And so this sort of value system it's espoused in this story is very much alive and in the women today, and in the way that we're trying to seek justice and reclaim our islands for ours. And because this is a navigating gathering, I'm saying that the women in our work today, the women are the weavers of the sail of our canoe into our future. And we saw this in the film yesterday, of the women sitting around and weaving the sail. So women are writing and reclaiming our story and are telling our narratives from our perspective into this sail of our canoe into the future. Women are researching and hypothesizing and studying and observing our communities as a part of the sail of collective resistance. Women are the environmentalists, the biologists, the scientists that are combating invasive species, coming up with conservation models, all as a thread in our sail of our collective resistance. Women are the healers that are gathering the plants and protecting the plants that save lives. The vital component, protecting the sacred spaces that have the medicines that have kept our people healthy and happy for years. Because healing isn't just, traditionally, it's not just about healing your wounds, it's also about healing your physical wounds, it's also about healing your spirit. It's a very holistic way of looking at health. And this is an important component of the sail for the future. And women are the artists that are carving, drawing, painting, writing into this sail, weaving their energies into this sail to move us forward. Women are the dancers and the chanters. They're using their hips and their voices and singing the melodies into this net, into this sail of our canoe into the future. Women are the policymakers making and ensuring that our children and our family and their needs are reflected in the way that our government is operating into the sail of our collective resistance. Women are the Chamorro teachers and ensuring that our language, our umbilical cord to our culture, is protected and used, because it is our language that provides the world view into our traditions and into our perspective that has kept us alive for thousands and thousands of years, and hopefully will protect us and keep us alive for thousands and thousands of more years in our islands. Women are the performers and the musicians, and using their talents to weave this sail of our canoe of collective resistance. Women are coming together to ensure that we are healthy and happy and looking at our lives holistically, because there's lots of toxicity on our island. We're getting together to ensure that we are informed about these things and looking at new and innovative ways to connect to one another and support one another, and navigate together to be healthier and happier in this day and age. And women are coming together as activists to save our spaces from further development that's not reflective of our wants and needs of our community, like at Save Southern Guam, where they were able to stop high-rise hotels being built in a southern part of the island, which is a more rural area. Women are ensuring that we're coming together to honor our ancestors and our ancestral sites. A lot of the development has destroyed a lot of our ancestral sites, has exhumed thousands and thousands of bodies, and women are the ones that are ensuring that we pay homage to these displaced ancestors when they're moved for the sake of development. And I've been a part of Our Islands Are Sacred, which is a women-based led movement, but we also have our male counterparts who are important, to spread awareness on the issues of militarization and to encourage our people to remember the sort of indigenous spirituality and to remember that really, truly, surely our islands are sacred. And we have organized to many different ceremonies to sacred spaces like the Rock of Creation. We've also organized and spread information about our efforts to decolonize and demilitarize our islands. And we're ensuring that our communities know about what's going to happen. The Fanaxa Marianas and Tinian Women's Association are at the forefront of suing the U.S. Navy to stop the plans from in Pagan and Tinian from happening. And they have proliferated information like these sort of flyers as an example, taking apart the EIS and making it into some things that are more digestible. These are some other organizations that many of us in this room are also a part of, Guardians of Ghani, Alternative Zero, Pocket Watch. We at Rawhan successfully sued the military into having them reevaluate plans to take an ancient village of Pocket, and now it's at Retidian, or Northwest Field, with what they wanted to do there, and we successfully, us tiny little islands, successfully took on one of the biggest, the world's biggest macho. The U.S. military is huge, it's immense, it has the most resources, and we were able to stop them from doing something destructive just 6 years ago. So it's a victory, not a full-on victory, but a victory that still needs to be celebrated. And of course, women are ensuring that we show our solidarity to the women here. When we had the women's, after Trump's inauguration, the women had that march all over here, the Women's March. We organized that, a Guam component with the Noki Famalawan. We also have organized events to show solidarity with Standing Rock. We've gone to Okinawa. We've gone to South Korea. We've done a lot of demilitarization work and helping others to protect their sacred sites. And we're just pushing to end colonization and to become independent. One of the biggest things happening on our islands right now, and just before I came out on my flight over, right before I left and right when I landed on the TV, was more news about North Korea threatening to bomb Guam. And in the light of all that, our governor and Trump promised fury and fire, but really, we don't want the U.S. to attack North Korea either. We want to see peace in the world, and we organized an event. In 2 days, we were able to get 200 people out to call for peace. And we didn't like what our male leaders had to say, so we needed to do something on our own behalf. So this was a great turnout for a day ahead of when we were supposed to be bombed that last time. And women now are at the forefront again of trying to protect that sacred site of Retidian. If you can, if you're on Facebook, visit Patahi Latex and know more about their efforts, because we are just, February 2018 is when they want to start bulldozing and construction of our limestone forest to turn it into a multi-range facility for the U.S. Marines. And there are solutions that I see. It's not all that. There is things that we can do, and one of them that I'm a part of, some of the efforts, is establishing an independent Rawhan. We are a non-self-governing territory according to the United Nations, so we have not expressed our inherent right for sovereignty, and that's something that could be supported to truly decolonize the island and hopefully one day reunify with the Marianas. And I think I'm out of time, but I did have videos to share with you of other voices of other women doing actions on the island.
I just have a few things, and then I want to yield my time to another student. I want to thank all the students for coming and listening and finding out more information about what's going to happen to the future of this island. All I have to say is Tatauta, Manita, Putehi, Tanota. And you cannot get peace by practicing for wars. So I'm going to yield the rest of my time to another student. I'm really interested, and thank you all my students for being brave enough to come up here. Jerica, go ahead, use the rest of my time.
Pinagana, wala ko sa sa amin. Intanoko esti. Tani mommy.
Translation?
This is not your island. This is my island.
I want this.
What I want to say is, if you're holding out a piece of paper, it's straight, right? And you're going to crumple a paper, and you think that the paper is going to go back to how it was? No, it's not. That's how you guys are going to chew our island. You think that we can recover from this fast? We can't. We can't recover from that. This is my island, not yours. You guys say you leased our island, right? You leased it. That doesn't mean you own it. If you lease an apartment, what do? You take care of it. You don't put damage because it's not yours. It's not your island. It's my island. Okay, they said that they're going to give international flights and stuff, and they're going to give this way where $5 goes. I'm like, yes, please. You guys want that? Yes. Not some island. I don't want to buy my island. This is my island. Where are my children going to go? Where are your grandchildren going to go? Nowhere. And the life in Tinian is hard enough. My grandparents have a hard time because what? The gas and everything is expensive. What more if they come and the prices go up? What's going to happen? Do you think people are going to want to come here? Tourism is how we get our funds. Our funds to help our lives here. What's going to happen if they come and they bomb our place? Do you think tourist people are going to come here? No. No. Nobody wants to sleep with bombs going off. Tita Romo Esti. Ano namin?